All right, back now here on the KFYR Plus News Desk. And today we speak with Jess Braverman, Legal Director at Gender Justice, about the recent North Dakota court ruling upholding a ban on gender-affirming care for transgender youth and its profound impact on families, rights, and also medical access. Welcome to the News Desk, Jess. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. So, Jess, how does this ruling affect parental rights in making medical decisions for their children?
The ruling was fairly broad. It gave politicians a lot of discretion to decide whether and how people can access health care in North Dakota. And, I would imagine this ruling would be troubling not just for families with kids who have gender dysphoria, but for families who are seeking any sort of health care. What the ruling essentially states is that the North Dakota Constitution allows politicians to make decisions over people's health care, and that when they do, there'll be very, very little review by courts of what that looks like. So if you have an outlier who says this sort of care is bad and they're not really an expert in the field, they're just someone who's kind of peripheral to it, watching developments in the field, that's enough based on this court ruling for politicians to ban healthcare. And so I think that families across North Dakota should really take notice of this ruling and really be concerned about it.
Is this something that you'll appeal to the North Dakota Supreme Court?
We're still discussing that with our client, but that is definitely a possibility at this time.
Can you share how this ruling is affecting transgender youth and their families in North Dakota right now?
More than anything, it's really demoralizing. So the testimony that came out in trial is that this, as a result of this ban, there's been suicides linked to the ban, or attempted suicides linked to the ban. There's also been some really big obstacles for people getting the health care they need. It's had a really strong impact on people's mental health and well-being. So the doctors in North Dakota are doing the best they can to make sure that all kids can get the health care that they need. But it's obviously impossible to serve everyone because there's going to be families who can't make it over to Minnesota or to other states where it's legal to get this care. But I think more than anything, it's just extremely demoralizing to put out there how much harm this law is doing, to put out there the fact that there are no kids in North Dakota who've been harmed by gender-affirming healthcare, and to still be told, no, you're not constitutionally protected. It's really sad. It's really disheartening, and we know a lot of families have already left the state, and we could see that continuing.
The court found that transgender individuals are not protected class under North Dakota's equal protection laws. What implication does this have for future civil rights litigation?
Well, for one, that could be appealed, and the North Dakota Supreme Court may have something different to say about it. But it impacts, it could impact future cases. It depends, because there's a certain flavor to this case where the court's making a little bit of a distinction between the people impacted and the healthcare. And so I wouldn't go so far as to say that it means that transgender people will never have access to constitutional rights in North Dakota when their rights are under attack. But it was really disheartening to see the reasoning in there, which suggests that being transgender is something that you can change about yourself, that it's not enough of a class of people to qualify for protection under equal protection rights. It's really disheartening to see. There was also a suggestion in the ruling that transgender people have political power in North Dakota, and we know that's simply untrue. We don't know of any out transgender lawmakers in North Dakota. Basically, transgender people aren't having the opportunity to be decision makers in their own rights and in their own care, and that sets a really dangerous precedent.
What role do major medical organizations play in shaping public understanding and policy around the gender-affirming care?
Every major medical association in the country supports the provision of gender-affirming medical care. They wrote in what's called an amicus brief, a friend of the court brief, informing the court about what this care is, how it functions, why they believe it's safe and effective. And so every major medical association supports the provision of gender-affirming care to adolescents. But the court basically said that politicians don't have to follow that guidance, even though the politicians are not themselves medical experts in any sense. They can simply disregard every major medical association in the country.
What do you say to those who believe that delaying transition-related care allows youth more time to explore their identity without medical intervention?
I think if people took the time to really get to know transgender adolescents and their families, they'd understand that this is a really it's a really difficult area. It's something that people put a lot of time and thought into. It's not a decision that's made rashly by any means. In North Dakota, healthcare professionals who treat other conditions, right? These are trusted professionals who also treat juvenile diabetes, cancer. We trust them to help young people make these decisions along with their families. And so these are not decisions that are made lightly. But there is a really important component of this, which is that puberty is itself an inflection point. Puberty is the time where we really see gender dysphoria wreak havoc on people's mental well-being. And so that is the age, right? When you're an adolescent, that is the age where you can actually put a pause on puberty and decide what's right for you. If you take that option away, then you're just kind of barreling kids towards a future that they have no control over, and that does far more harm. The other thing people don't realize is gender affirming medical care. It's the same medications that are given to kids for a variety of conditions. These aren't special medications that are only provided in the case of gender affirming medical care. And so these are medications that other kids are allowed to take at even younger ages, and we're barring for these kids for this population. And so that's a huge problem. None of the medications are dangerous that we've banned in this. The only thing we've done is say to a certain population of kids, you cannot be your authentic self, and that's really dangerous.
What are Gender Justice's next steps in advocating for trans youth in the state now and going forward?
We continue to support transgender youth in the state of North Dakota. We're going to continue to have conversations with families, with communities who are impacted by this ruling and by other anti-trans rulings in the state of North Dakota. We're going to talk to people in advance of any future sessions and future bills that are targeting transgender youth in North Dakota. There's just a really disproportionate focus in the North Dakota legislature over transgender youth, which are really a tiny population of North Dakotans. And I would hope all North Dakotans are kind of asking, why are our politicians so focused on taking away the rights of this really small community of people and not focused on the things that we know are really important to us, like being able to afford childcare, paid family medical leave, things like that will really make a difference in the lives of North Dakotans. We're hoping that that's what politicians in North Dakota focus on and not on bullying a very small population of kids in the state.
One final question. What support is available for families now forced to seek care out of state?
Just so families know that right now, a lot of folks in North Dakota are seeking care in states where it is legal to do so. This care is legal in the state of Minnesota, so I just want to make sure folks know that. If people have questions about where and whether they can seek care, there is no law against providing people referrals for care in other states. So you can continue to reach out to your medical provider and ask for information on where you can receive this care. It is legal to provide referrals for this care, and it is legal to get the care in other states. Now, unfortunately, as a practical matter, it's not easy for people to drive all the way across states, across multiple time zones, just to access healthcare. But unfortunately, that's the situation that transgender kids and their families are put in right now. But it is not illegal to ask about it. It is not illegal to seek those kinds of referrals and information.
Okay. Jess Braverman, Legal Director at Gender Justice. Thank you so much for your time today. I sure appreciate the insight.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. All right, it is 26 now past. Stick close. We're going to catch up with the CEO and President of the Bank of North Dakota, Don Morgan, coming up next.